I'm Beth Masser. I'm with the Department of Conservation in Wellington. John's talked about land user agreements, and I guess we're after him because the Department of Conservation is probably the largest land manager in New Zealand. We're responsible for 1/3 of the land in New Zealand, so it's a big responsibility. Our primary role is about conservation, but we're really keen to see the sustainable beekeeping industry in New Zealand, and we've taken a good hard look at this from a conservation perspective to see what our role in DOC is in supporting that. So we've undertaken a review of beekeeping from a conservation perspective. The reasons for that are probably pretty clear to you all. There's been a rapid increase in demand for beekeeping right across New Zealand, and particularly access to Mānuka honey. We're concerned about the risks the introduced honeybees could have on conservation values. We're well aware that beekeeping, honey production is a priority for regional development in different parts of the country. And we would like to explore what the economic potential of this, where it's on public conservation land, to ensure that an appropriate return for that commercial use of conservation land comes back to New Zealand. And also under the review, we wanted to have a think about what are the opportunities for an improved use of marginal land through Mānuka plantation. So that was why we undertook the review. So first of all, we really get the importance of honeybees, so I'm going to talk about it from a conservation perspective, but I want you to know that at DOC we really understand the importance of the honeybees to underpinning the agricultural and horticultural pollination in New Zealand. So we wouldn't be here without bees, we know that. So that's clear and a given to us, but we want to consider from a conservation perspective what's appropriate. So one of our scientists, Catherine Beard, undertook an analysis of the risks of honeybees to conservation values, and she came up with really 4 key risks. Now this report is on our website, and it's actually a really easy read, so really recommend that you have a wee look at that. But the risks that she's identified, first of all, the competition the honeybee has with the native pollinators. So that's the birds, insects, lizards, that sort of thing. So the honeybees are very effective competitors, arrive en masse in a heated environment. They can go out, even if they're just there for a month, that's a lot of competition with the native pollinators that might wait till it's warmer before they go out seeking the nectar, that sort of thing. The honeybees can spread pests and disease, so either on their bodies as they go hive to hive, but also through the action of transporting your hives around, on trucks, that sort of thing, we can get a spread of disease and pests. The honeybees can result in ineffective pollination of some species, so they can get into some flowers, take the nectar without effectively pollinating the flower. So Kakabeak would be an example of that, where they take the nectar without pollinating it. So that then has a risk to some of the native species, the plants as well. And the bees can exacerbate the spread of weeds by pollinating more weeds. So you'll hear from Linda Newstrom-Lloyd and others about the bees wanting pollen as part of their protein supply. When they're getting that pollen from gorse and broom and willows, they can be exacerbating the spread of weeds. On the converse, honeybees could also help if the native pollinators were depleted for some reason. They could have a role in aiding pollination. So that's on the positive side. And also a concern to us, something that we have to really think about is the effect of planting Mānuka using manufactured hybrids when we don't really fully understand what the risks long-term to Mānuka as a species or a range of species may be. So we've got an interest in that too. Oops, suddenly nothing happened. Okay, so did I just jump one, I think? Yeah, rightio. So our aim in this review was to take a national approach on conservation land with the aim of protecting conservation, so those values I talked about, streamlining the processes of issuing concessions on conservation land and using a fairer process for that, having an open and transparent approach to this, and better engagement with iwi as part of our Treaty of Waitangi responsibilities. So that's been our aim. So what are we doing? We've got that science report, that literature review of 136 pieces of research from New Zealand and internationally that reviews that to inform our national guidelines. Those guidelines are on the DOC website. You can download them. I wouldn't say they're as easy and cohesive. I've had a bit of a hand in there. But it's a good start point. It's an expression of how we're going to manage, from a conservation perspective, beekeeping in New Zealand. We've put a halt on reactive concessions and have called for expressions of interest. I'm sure a number of you are aware of this. And in the meantime, we've identified the low-risk areas on conservation land suitable for beekeeping. So it's been quite a big job. That's a third of New Zealand that we've assessed from a conservation perspective. We're running through the country, talking to all of the iwi at place to understand the cultural values in those places that might be at risk from beekeeping as well. We really want to understand those. We'll, places where we can't, there's a risk to cultural values, we'll remove those from the allocation process. And then the remaining land we're putting into lots and rolling out through a competitive allocation process to those people who have expressed an interest. So that's underway. It started on the 1st of September. It's for a 1-year period. We're rolling up through the country. That exercise will give us an idea of, will tell us what the market value of honey is. So as a land administrator, and as any of you landowners will know, it's difficult to say what's the value of honey, put a price on it, the fair price. We don't want to have a conservation land as a discounted option for beekeeping because, we've got concerns about it. It's not contributing to conservation necessarily. We don't want to be the sponge that's soaking all the hives onto conservation land. So an allocation process like this allows the variable value of honey to be dictated by the market. And we've done some work on the Mānuka plantation. We've put into our national guidelines a holding pattern, if you like, that we would like to see more work done on understanding the taxonomy of Mānuka and the long-term, risks to it before we look at planting Mānuka on conservation land. So at the moment we're happy to look at situations where local seeds source, that sort of thing, but perhaps not manufactured cultivars till we understand a bit more. And we're doing more work around monitoring what that means to ensure that this allocation model is fair and delivers its outcome. So the consequence of this review is that a third of New Zealand is going to be under a sustainable beekeeping model, and I've put in blue and italics there, based on conservation. So we're unashamedly basing our model on conservation. That's what we're here for. But a third of New Zealand under a sustainable management regime is a helpful contribution, we like to think, to beekeeping sustainability in New Zealand. So there's the rest of the country to sort out, but at least it's a step in the right direction. So for more information, you can have a look on the DOC website. As I said, open and transparent. All of the documents that we've prepared are on the website for anyone to see. Those documents listed there. We've prepared a summary poster that I've put up in the foyer and up at MPI's site. But that information, our website's just been updated over the weekend to include that information, so it's very easily accessible. There's an email address there for if you have any questions about the allocation process. I won't be answering questions about that per se because we're running, it's a tender. We need to make sure that everybody gets the same information, so not running separate questions around that. But thank you very much.